last time I tried to watch it,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, here's what I say. It's better. They've got better wrestlers.
Oh, for
They got
sure
better
they
performers.
if they ever wrestle.
That
was my problem.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, they do. They're doing a lot. It is a lot better as far as actual wrestling goes.
Yeah.
Their bad habit is like having the same people wrestle over and over again. Of course, they keep firing so many people. But Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair, is freaking amazing.
Yeah,
dude, she is
that's
so
what I
good.
hear.
She is so good, man.
I mean, she's wrestling royalty, so
Man, she's so good at being a heel. She is I think she's probably the best heel in the business right now.
Did she just get into the business, or she's been in it for a long time?
No, she's been in for a long time.
Because I was thinking Ric Flair's daughter. I'm like, oh wait, it's not 1992 anymore. Ric Flair's 70. How old is his daughter? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
young.
Yeah, I'm guessing she's got to be mid-30s at least.
You would think so, because he's not. He's an older gentleman. He's up in his silver years.
Yeah, he's also been married 5 times.
That's true.
So.
But what I'm saying,
how celebrities, they don't give a fuck. They just have kids. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Mick Jagger's probably got a 10-year-old running around.
well, true, but no,
I think that's literally the case.
what I
It
was
wouldn't surprise me
saying.
at all.
What I was saying is, dude was middle aged when I was in diapers, and so I was did she just decide to come in wrestling, or is she a late coming into the show late?
No, she.
And just bloomed. Just decided to be awesome.
No, I don't know.
Matt, you missed the part of the conversation, but I was watching something on TV or scrolling through Facebook, something just to unplug from studying, and there was a shot of a wrestling match, and it dawns on me that wrestling is just drag shows for straight guys. That's basically what this is.
Well, I've never been to a drag show, so I don't have anything.
Oh, we've got to take you to a drag show. I want
Well,
this
I watch
to
wrestling.
happen.
Sounds like I don't need to go.
There you go. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just it's like fighting impersonation. They come out there. There's a boa. Somebody's catching a feather. Somebody's going to catch a heel to the face.
They just don't use the boas anymore.
They really should bring that back. Ric Flair's daughter should bring that back. That's the one who should do it.
Yeah.
You would think. I mean, that's just
trying to think last time I saw anybody wearing a boa. It's Hulk Hogan, I guess.
Probably.
I mean, if you want to get literal, it was Jake the Snake. Last person you saw wearing a boa. Let's see what I did there. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
And this is episode 189. Welcome back. We hope you have had a fantastic week since last we spoke. And that extends to my brethren right here who are talking with me. Everybody doing okay? We have some exciting news, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. My daughter had a daughter on Wednesday night after 20 hours of labor.
Jesus.
Oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing. You could do that, no problem.
I got all kinds of stuff done in that 20 hours.
Yeah, it was. I'm getting text after text from people. Well, I'm like, there's no news. And I'm sitting at home, so until I get the news, But, yeah, it was a long day, long night. Yeah, but we are really glad to welcome Corinne Louisa
That's awesome, dude.
into the world.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations to all. And she is beautiful. Perfect
Well,
in every
thank
way.
you. I could say that, but I'm very, very biased. But
What's going to be the first comic book Pop reads to her?
well, I already told her that I can't wait to tell her the tragic story of Anakin Skywalker, his rise, fall, and redemption.
Right.
So that will be the first thing that I introduce her to, and then I don't know. We'll see.
Is this going to be
It
one of those?
probably won't be Sin City.
Probably not.
A hint for what's coming later in the show.
I would give that time. I would at least until preteens. Is this going to be one of those like Clockwork Orange situations where you like bring in the little stroller thing and just set
You
the
don't have to do
child?
that with Star Wars. You just
set the child
put
in
it
front of
on.
the TV.
Kids love it. Bright colors. There's cartoons. There's live action. There's plenty to keep her entertained.
Her first word's going to be R2D2. It's going to be great.
It's probably going to be, her speaking Shriwook.
Yeah.
She'll
just
roaring like Chewbacca.
Oh, that's true. You can just say that her first word were in Wookiee. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Matt? Anything exciting and fun happened this week?
No.
No? Just
A lot of physically demanding chores.
yeah.
But I got them
those
done.
Are the worst.
Yeah. A lot of them packed into just 2 days.
Check marked.
Check mark, man.
Would you like to come to my house and do some things?
I would not like to do that. Would not like to do my own.
I don't blame you 1,000% on that. I don't want to do this stuff at my house.
No, who does, right? Like, nobody wants to do those things. There's so many things I've got to get done in the next couple of weeks before school starts at the house that I just need to focus.
I just look around, I get overwhelmed, and I just turn on the video game and ignore it.
Roger will walk in, when are you going to do this thing? I'm like, when are you going to pay somebody to do that thing? That's a really good question.
In our group chat, Matt shared a meme the other day, and it said, stressing over getting tasks done, and the guy's reading in a book, and it says, do the task, and the guy starts crying. That really hit home.
So what was funny is I was procrastinating studying and complaining about studying at the exact moment that came in, so I felt like Matt was reaching through the ether and letting me know I wasn't living right.
I think that one probably hits everybody equally.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, it was one of those weeks. Lots of studying, lots of work. Kind of like Matt. My tasks were less physically demanding, but more just, God, my brain hurts as I'm like wringing out stuff out of my brain cells, and it was stupid, and I hate it, and I never want to go back to that place again.
Sorry, my chair's making so much noise. I don't
Ridiculous.
know. It is.
It's
ridiculous.
Textured. It's
Notice
textured.
file, would you please, Kevin?
Check.
Put it in
Noted.
my permanent record.
Me typing into my spreadsheet on August the 8th. So anyway, besides all of that, did we get any comic books read this week?
I didn't think I was going to, but I ended up getting some read.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I read The Last Book That You'll Ever Read by Colin Bunn, Leela Lates, Deodatto, Marchiso, and Jim Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Nightfall Publications.
It's Vault Comics. That's
Is
their
it
horror.
Vault?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's horror. That's their horror imprint.
Yeah, this book is kind of a commentary on a couple of different things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is probably the main thing that it's portraying is what responsibility does an artist have to the public for how they perceive their work.
Right.
But because it's Cullen Bunn, it's done in a horrifically gruesome way. So, I also read Berserker #4 from Boom Studios. Keanu Reeves, Matt Kent, Ron Gurney, and Bill Crabtree. This issue in particular gave a whole bunch more of his backstory, which was just brutal and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of this book could be done without words, and I would still love this book, the way it's drawn and with the violence and the gore and the just general, story, I guess, that's being told through the artwork. But absolutely, just I would not have thought that a Keanu Reeves book would be this high on my list.
Oh, why not?
I don't know. I just I didn't know about him writing comic books, but I get it is with Matt Kent, so you've got that tied in. So then I read Bermuda #1, John Layman, Nick Bradshaw, and Lynn O'Grady. This is an IDW book. This book you should pick up for no other reason than the art, if for no other reason than the art. The story's great too, but it's a couple of what would you call them? Trust fund kids on an airplane and on a private plane that crashes in Bermuda, and the son is saved by a probably older teenage girl that lives on the island named Bermuda. And the daughter is abducted by mer people riding giant lizard dinosaurs. And by mer people, they're just fish people on land. They don't look like humans at all.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun, as John Layman books tend to be, but the art's absolutely beautiful in it.
So I read this book as well, and co-sign. I thought it was great. Just the caveat, he's not breaking any new boundaries. He's not trying to reach in and be clever. He's just kind of writing a straightforward Bermuda Triangle. Here's what happens where the things disappear.
Kind of like the Savage Lands is really
a little
what
bit,
it is.
yeah.
Except on the outside of Bermuda, you've got the trust fund father, is now, of course, trying to get his kids back. So
Yeah.
and it's John Layman, so I'm sure it will be clever as it goes on. The first issue is just kind of an introductory issue, but again, worth the price of admission for the art alone in it.
Yeah, no, I co-sign it. It was really, really fun. What about you, Mr. Matt?
So my short stack, starting with the Immortal Hulk, number 49 from Marvel. We're almost to it, guys. It's almost done.
Almost time to cry.
This one was really interesting in that there were no word balloons throughout this one. It was all, the text was in the borders, the outside borders of each page. But the impact of it was strong, really strong impact with this issue. One thing that I just loved in this issue is he described the Hulk as an unholy thing in a holy place. It's like, yes.
There's never been a better descriptor for the Hulk.
Man, that was great stuff. Also, I read, did either one of you guys read this? Deadpool, Black, White, and Blood?
No, I didn't.
I didn't intend to pick it up. I'm not necessarily a Deadpool fan. I mean, I feel okay about the character. But the reason I did pick it up is a few different reasons. One, the creative team, per usual with these Black, White, and Reds, it's a anthology. The creative team on this one was made up of Tom Taylor and Phil Noto. Then there was Ed Brisson, and very interestingly, Wilce Portacio, artist on a story in here. I can't remember the last time I saw him do anything, frankly. And then James Stocco did story number 3. Story number 1 features Honey Badger. So there's some things that I thought, well, okay, I'll give this a try.
Nice.
Between the characters involved and in the creative team. And it was good.
Have we seen Honey Badger since the whole Krakoa takeover thing?
I've not.
Yeah, I haven't either. I was wondering
unless she's been in the background somewhere, which is possible that I've missed her. But
third on the list, I went back to 1981.
Oh boy! Speaking of Wilce Portacio,
from which has nothing to do with this book.
No, but the 90s.
1981.
Oh, I thought you said 91. Sorry. No, 80s and 90s are the same thing.
Anything else completely unrelated you want to throw into my book?
I like the coffee cup. It's a nice coffee cup.
Sorry. This is from Marvel. This is a Marvel movie special, James Bond for Your Eyes Only. The official Marvel Comics adaptation.
How faithful is it?
Very.
Is
exactly.
It? Yeah.
Written by Larry Hama. Illustrated by one Howard Chaykin, or Howie Chaykin as his friends call him. I don't understand why these books were ever made, frankly. Why did they ever make these?
Money.
Who's looking for this? Who wants to buy this?
People were buying them, but
I'd really like to know what the sales numbers on a book like this were, because it's a straight up adaptation of the movie. And all the characters are drawn to look exactly like the characters in the movie, of which Howie Chaykin does a great job, by the way.
Yeah.
The art and the writing in this is very good, easy to read. But I don't understand the point.
So I can tell you the point. Is back in this particular time in the world, VHS home video was not a thing. So in order to
that's fair.
relive these movies, they put them out. You got novelizations, you got comic books, you got people couldn't just go home and buy the video later and watch it.
Right.
Until it came on, one of the 3 channels that we had available in 1981.
That is very true. And as far as like adapting films, I mean, if you're talking about Howard Chaykin, look, his first, not his first, one of his biggest claim to fame, which he now laments and regrets and hates thoroughly, was the Star Wars work.
That's not completely fair. He doesn't hate that he did Star Wars.
Oh, no, he hates that he doesn't get paid for it, pretty much.
That and the fact that it's the only book he charges to sign.
Right.
And he charges to sign it because you're not getting his signature because you want his signature. You're getting his signature because of the property that it's on. So there's that whole part of it. It's not so much that he hates his work or anything in it. It's just...
Well, as much as he hates anything, he's a very curmudgeonly fellow.
Well, I mean, that is fair. He generally, is... Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like
curmudgeon's a good word.
But I mean, so he's very good at doing that sort of thing, as in taking likenesses and boiling it down to its essence. So, and he's doing a lot of that same kind of concept, same conceptual work with his Hey Kids comics. If you're reading that, but more as not in far as distilling film down, but in distilling like history down. He's taking like the history of comics and this very like real insider knowledge and likenesses and everything else, and he's dropping it into a book. So he's good at taking something that you have seen before and just bringing it to the page. As far as like a narrative goes, he's one of the best. So, and this was 1981.
1981.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't think we'd get 10 minutes of conversation out of that book, did you?
I expected nothing less.
It was shaken, not stirred. Well, none of my books are come from the 80s. In fact, they only come from last week. But first and foremost was Star Wars High Republic, number 7. This is great. This is the only Star Wars book I'm reading. I know, Craig, you're reading it because you generally, it's Star Wars. But it's just a really fantastic journey. And what I love about it is none of these characters are like your classic quote-unquote Star Wars characters. Like, it doesn't have any of the people you've seen on screen before. It's all completely new. And it's written by Kevin Scott. George Jonti is the artist. Carl Story is the inker. Annalisa Leone is the colorist. And Ariana Mayer does the letters with a cover by Phil Noto. No, it's fun. So they're kind of dropping into not a completely new arc, but they're taking this conceit of the main character, having been touched by something evil.
The living plants that infect them.
That she can't shake, and still trying to be a new Jedi. I really like this kind of a Ronin-esque type figure that they bring up in this. These Jedi that are a little bit untethered from the council, and they just kind of do what they want to do.
A little bit of trivia going on here.
Nice.
In Attack of the Clones, when Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to the library and there's the statues in there, those are the statues of the Lost Jedi, the Fallen Jedi, the ones that have left the Order. Some of them are in this series.
Very cool.
So
nice. See, this is why we need you.
That's why you keep me around, for my in-depth Star Wars knowledge.
You Star Wars
certainly not for my comic knowledge.
Shit, I'm also calling bullshit. Speaking of Will Portasio, I also read The Last Book You'll Ever Read, and it was fun. Has nothing to do with Will Portasio, but just kind of. But you said everything. No,
it's got some meta commentary going on it. It's got that commentary about. Civilization has created this facade over people, and what happens if you strip that facade away?
Well, yeah, the whole thing is there's some questions about culpability here. It shines a mirror up to society, because the whole thing is about this novel that talks about the breakdown of humanity, and in some cases, people start reacting to it. Is it giving them an excuse to do so? Is it causing them to do so? Should it be censored? Should it be burned? Like, there's a lot of really smart commentary, like I said, meta commentary here. And it's why Bunn is great. But, I could preach all day and have preached all day on why people should read Cullen Bunn books, and he writes a ton of them. But also, like Vault just continues to kill it. Like,
especially his independent books.
Some of the smartest horror work you're going to find right now is coming out of Vault. It's so freaking good. And they've been having just comeuppance moment over the past year and a half. Everything that they're putting is gold. And I don't know if that's just, they've got somebody really, really strong in editorial, or they just are having a moment where everything is clicking, but
they're just hiring the right people.
It continues to win. And Layla Leitz, who is the artist on that book, she also did the Mother of Madness book that I think came out 2 weeks ago. That was co-written by, the chick who played the Dragon Mother on Game of Thrones.
Emma Clark.
Yeah. So co-written by
Emilia Clark. Is it Emilia Clark?
Fight right now. Fight over it.
Either way, it's E. Clark.
E. Clark.
E. Clark. Yeah. Mother of Dragons. Break
also
chains.
A Star Wars reference. She played Kira in Solo.
Shit, she did. I forgot. She just doing everything, doing the most. But no, I actually preferred Leitz's art in The Last Book You'll Ever Read than what I saw in Mother of Madness. I don't know what it was, maybe just subject matter, but it felt more energetic. So
I did not pick up Mother of Madness.
Her friends call her Emily.
We call her Emmy.
Yeah.
Number one. And then last but certainly not least, is, speaking of Will Spatio, Milestone Returns, Icon and Rocket #1, Season 1, the first issue. I loved Milestone. I think Milestone was great. I remember all of these characters very fondly when they came out. I thought it was cool because they were doing something different. Obviously, it's superheroes and superhero stories rooted in the black community. And so even though it's not a book that's necessarily written for me, it's certainly a book I can appreciate. And we read the first Static book, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is a win. So let me check out the rest of the world. This one,
that Static book is our book of the week.
I think we did it as a roundtable. Yeah. I immediately jumped on it. But Icon and Rocket is written by Reginald Hudland, pencils by Doug Braithwaite, inks by Scott Hanna and Andrew Curry. Colors by Brad Anderson and letters by And World Design. It's just really cool. It's very much an analog of Superman when it comes to Icon and his young partner, who is a genius scientist, somebody who is just coming from a place where the introduction is not one they had expected. She had broken into this old mansion. He's lived there since the early 1800s and is staying hidden. And they become a team. Really cool. I'm glad to see Icon and Rocket. I'm glad to see all of Milestone come back. Unfortunately, most of the people who spearheaded the original Milestone are no longer with us, which is incredibly unfortunate because I would love to see them. I would love to see them get to experience what's happening with these creations and how important it was to the time and how important it is now. It's extremely timely. So if you can get these, definitely check it out. Check out Static. Super fun. It harkens back to what it was, but it's not tethered to it in a way that it feels dated. It's all fresh. It's very timely stuff. So definitely check it out. Well, all right. That was a good little batch of short stacks.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to our show.
Yep. Gavel. Slam it down.
We'll catch you next week.
If you want to tell us what is on your short stack, and you should, we'd love to know. You know what you do? You just get on your little keyboard, you click, and head right on over to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast on Facebook, where you can tell us all about what you've been reading. Or if you want,
you don't even have to dial in through AOL anymore.
None of that weird.
Just open your browser.
None of that weird noise. None of that little
you don't have to kill a robot to get online.
Not all.
What if somebody's on the phone?
That's not a problem anymore.
Still no dial-up. Don't you kind of miss dial-up every once in a while?
No, I hated it. Had to have two separate lines into your house so that you didn't get disconnected every time somebody...
When are the hipsters going to bring back dial-up? They're bringing back everything else. But you can also share pictures.
Says the guy that just bought a turntable.
I did, and it's amazing. It is awesome. It is fantastic. Everybody should have a turntable. You need it in your life. Bought a new Judas Priest record. Bought Painkiller. Sounds
nice.
Fucking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Right up by my reading chair. Just blast it. Oh, it's so good.
Nice.
But you can also tell us what is so good in your life. See that segue? If you come to Twitter and Instagram, or at SFG Podcast on both of those. So anyway, that's just our short little blip on how to connect with us. We want you to. It'd be great to find out what you're reading.
Caleb segues like Weird Al does in White and Nerdy.
Speaking of Will Spatio, we all got together, as we always do, and we picked out a book. We actually picked out 2 books this week that we read together. So you're kind of getting a double dip of a round table. One is new, one is not so new. We'll start with the new one first, because why not? It's great. It's fresh. It needs to be talked about. And that book is none other than Not All Robots by the one and only Mr. Mark Russell, art by Mike Deodatto Jr. and Lee Luridge on the colors there. This comes out of AWA. It's their Upshot line, which started off strong. I was reading a lot of the AWA stuff when it first came out. Unfortunately, I fell off of it. I don't know what. Some things just didn't connect to me.
Some of it's been really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Some of it's been really, really, really mediocre.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is true of a lot of a lot of
every publication out there is that way. You can't. I mean, very few bat 100.
I feel bad for them. Their flagship book was, I think it was the return of J. Scott Campbell.
It was John Michael Strazinski.
Strazinski, that's who it was, yeah.
Or J. Michael Strazinski. I don't know why I named him John.
Why not? Why not?
Or isn't everybody with a J period, their name's really John?
If they're close enough on the friends list, it could be.
Yeah, so anyways, Straczynski's return, and yeah, it was a book about pandemic.
Right at it was
the month before COVID hit.
Right when it happened, like we were getting we knew we weren't going back to school right when I read this book, and I'm like, I can't.
I read the first 2 pages. I'm like, I can't do a pandemic book right now.
Not this is not the place for me. But I've picked up a few things since then in the AWA world, and a lot of them it's supposed to be the shared universe. Or at least it started off that way. I don't think
it is anymore. It doesn't, because I've read enough of them that I'm like, it may be a shared universe, but there's no real interconnection.
Right.
Them.
That's kind of what I felt. The book that we have in our hands, though, feels a little bit different than anything that I've read that came out of there, which was not unexpected considering it's Mr. Mark Russell. And if you're sitting at home wondering, this peaks high on the Mark Russell scale. Very, very high. So that's my little 30,000-foot view of how it was. I loved it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was fantastic. What did you guys think?
Same, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mark Russell, and, it's satire done well.
Well, one of the only people who's doing satire just well or
intentional satire
that understands it in comics. I'm not saying there's not other people who don't do it or who don't get it, but as far as just a body of work, he's one of the few people who are writing in any medium today that really just gets satire. So what is this book about? Well, in a nutshell, the Earth has turned to shit. Be it global warming or just the abuse that we've put the planet through in the future has broken it down. It takes place in the year 2056, and all of your major cities now just kind of exist as bubbles. They're just inside. That way they can control the air quality, and outside in the wasteland, people are just I guess their face melts if they breathe too hard or something. I don't know. They just all fall apart.
Face melts.
But
I just picture it's a lot like Total Recall, Mars when they lose it when they got.
First thing I thought was Mega City 1.
Yeah, I kind of got that too. I thought of The Road a little bit. I was like, okay, this is probably what it's like outside those walls. Little Cormac McCarthy there for your morning coffee. But no, so like you can see in the first image, like the city has a giant wall around it and a dome, and outside it's just wrecked. Well, civilization at this point has created AI, or at least some type of robotics. Like you might think, it started off as that we're going to make a helpmate for people. Like these are things that are going to do the menial tasks that we all hate. And when we have these creatures to do it, a lot of people are going to lose their purpose. They're going to just they're going to find other things to do, which could create its own problems. Except for now, it's advanced so much that there is a rift between humanity and the robots. The robots are a little bit tired of being taken for granted, and they realize that everything that the humans need is dependent on them doing it. But humans are quick to remind them, hey, like the reason we're like we are is because, number one, we made you, and you really can't exist without us. That you don't have the creativity to keep yourself going. But also, what did you think was going to happen? Like, yeah, you're artificial. Like, we do this, and you the only reason you exist is to do these things. So, if we all die, we all die. And there's this kind of back and forth banter. And of course, a lot of this taking place in pure Mark Russell fashion on a very, like a political talk show.
Hosted by a robot.
That's hosted by a robot. It seems a little unfair. Just a little one-sided there. Very, Bill Marsh.
One of the best lines is when the other robot says something, and I think his name's Cut to Pieces or something like that.
Sliceatron,
yeah.
Cut to Pieces. Jesus Christ.
Same thing. Sliceatron says something controversial, and the host robot says, yeah, we got some backtracking to do on that. So
very, very Bill Marsh in that. But like Mark Russell is wont to do, he takes you this big zoom out view, and so he can give you this sociological commentary, and then he zooms in, like he focuses on the interior, and he zooms in on this family called the Walters, and it's your typical little white family, mom, dad, 2 kids, and a house robot named Razorball. All of these robots have murder names, and it's phenomenal. It's hilarious to me. But
it's totally what I would name my house robot, is something, just as metal as I could, knowing that someday he's going to kill me anyways.
Murder fingers. But the Walters are a little.
Cut to Pieces would be a good name.
You fucking kid! You're not kidding anybody. Your robot's name would be C-3PO.
Oh,
there's
100%.
No fucking get out of here with this killer robot name. It's R2-D2, C-3PO.
Yeah.
Cut to Pieces.
Craig would absolutely. I'm naming mine Will's Portasio.
Everything is now.
That's
Did you get a new car, Caleb? Yeah, it's the new Will's Portasio.
It's a 2021 Will's V6. Yeah. Made in it's the 81 model. But so the Walters is, they're like I said, they're meant to be a middle class family. Mom, dad, 2 kids. And they, like most people, have their own robot. Actually, they have to have a robot. Now, robots are assigned to all the families in the world that Mark Russell and Mike Deodatto have made. And they're a little worried because their robot it seems depressed. He's
having an existential crisis.
He comes home from work and they ask him stupid fucking questions like, "How was your day?" And this bothers him in his circuits. It
bothers him because he knows they don't really care.
Yeah, they're just the dad wants to just worship the robot because the robot does all the cool things for the family. Mom and kids are like, "No, we should be worried about this because look what happens when he short circuits and leaves us in a bloody pulp." What do we do then? And so it goes from their kind of internal issues to following around Razorball, and as he goes to work and talks to his co-worker robots about how look, they're developing a new Mandroid robot that's going to displace them. So it's this cycle of displacement that they're looking into.
The other robot says a simple fine would have sufficed.
It's like, bro, it was like, how was your day? I didn't mean for you to unload on me or upload, as he calls it. The whole thing culminates to the fact that there is a faction, like everybody's splintered, right? Like nobody's on the same page in any comic book. The robots don't, there's robots that disagree with other robots. The humans don't know what to do. The families don't know how to exist without them. They don't know how to exist with them. There's this existential threat that everyone is facing. And that culminates by the fact that there is this faction of the robots who just decided they want to commit genocide and take out all the humans.
They started in a very Asimov way and removed their empathy chips.
Yeah, just broken. And then it culminates to, at the end of the book, this look. Don't go to Disney World in Mark Russell books. Is all I'm saying. It's not good. I thought the book was. I thought the book was great. Did y'all read the back matter in this by any chance? Yep. Yeah, there is a line that Mark Russell writes, and look, I don't know what Mark Russell's plans. Markle's, as his friends call him, I don't know what Markle's plans for the afterlife is. But if Mark Russell ever has a tombstone, the quote that writing when done right is an exercise in forced empathy should be on this man's tombstone. That is an amazing quote, and it's completely true, especially for the style of writing that Mark Russell does. I'm gonna stay on the book. It's a win.
Mm-hmm. Yep, same
for sure.
I love the image at the back that Mike Deodatto does. It's the robots, but it's done in the style of the American Gothic, with them standing there. And it's. Well, I don't have enough good things to say about the story.
Well, the other comment was about that it shouldn't be named Not All Robots. It should be named All the Robots because he's never drawn so many robots in his life.
Mike Deodatto's art in this is Mike Deodatto's art. I have no complaints about it. I'm not the biggest Mike Deodatto fan of his more recent work. It's very digitized. It's very layered. I think it works wonderfully for this. But look, Mike Deodatto in 2021 is not Mike Deodatto in the year 2000. Like, it's a different style, and I love that artists grow. I love that he's trying new things and stuff like that. In this, the art seems not just in this book, just overall. Mike Deodatto seems a little stale for me. I don't get the life that I used to see in his work, so I don't know if that's just a different format or what. That's not necessarily a complaint.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, no, that's a complaint.
It's a complaint.
Don't backpedal.
It's a complaint, not a criticism. It's me saying it. I don't like it, not that it's bad. If that makes sense. Like, I have no room to say, hey, this is bad art. It's not bad art. It's wonderful art.
You do every other show.
I do not.
A lot you do.
I don't.
I mean, that's what you do.
I do. I take umbrage at that. It's just not for me. Is what I just don't. To me, it seems a little stale.
It was interesting. I like Mike Deodatto Jr.'s art. However, it was really interesting to look at his art with this kind of narrative. Because I'm so accustomed to seeing him do a story that's got a lot of action, typically a lot of violence. So reading a very grounded
I would argue that this probably has more deaths in it than any other book he's ever written.
So it's interesting to read it in this context, just because of the way the context of his style of art that I'm used to seeing it in. Seeing it outside of that was interesting.
I think it's a lot on the same lines as Sean Phillips, to be honest with you. It's kind of that realistic artwork.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of a realism to it instead of a cartoony.
Yeah, and
that's what I mean by Sean Phillips, not necessarily that he's a duplicate for Sean Phillips.
It's such a dark book. All the tones in this book are very dark. So
yeah, a lot of shade work, a lot of dark.
With the
it's
subject
not a
matter
happy
itself,
future.
It gives you a very ominous feel to basically everything because of the shades used in the book. So,
yeah, I think the art's good for this book. It's nothing I would say groundbreaking or anything, but it's good art. It's got a realism to it that I think is intentional to show the difference between the humanity and the robots.
Well, when I look at it, and I see what you mean when you see the connection to Sean Phillips. When I look at it, I think of Andrea Sorrentino. If you remember his work,
certainly
from Gideon,
in the coloring,
Gideon Falls, because he kind of does that same thing where it looks like he's taken a photograph, and he's, especially when you look at the people's faces, he's layered over it, and he's redrawn the lines, and he's blurred the lines a little bit, but it is very photo referential, but in not in the way where it looks like it just photocopied something and stuck it on a page. Like, he's doing his own thing with it. He's adding an artistic flair and flavor to it. I think Andrea Sorrentino does it in a way that is more digestible to my eye. As far as the way that he also works in, like,
I think Sorrentino, for me, it depends on what book he's on.
Yeah.
So
like
again, I think it works well for this book because it works well to show the humanity versus the robots. You have a very realistic human side, and then you have the robotic side. It's not cartoony in any way. So.
No, except the writing. The writing makes you laugh because it is.
Yeah, it seems juxtaposed to the art. That's what's interesting about it to me.
Mark Russell's going to make you laugh no matter what the subject matter is.
He's so quippy. Like, his one-liners and his quips are great. But no, back to the art, like in this range where you have, like I said, people like, the scale, from my opinion, being a 0 with people like Kudaransky up to a 10 with somebody like
0
Sorrentino.
What was he saying earlier about saying art?
Oh no, I will on that. I'll give you that one. I'll give I can't I will absolutely close a book.
You criticized the book because they drew in the outline.
Yeah,
you
beat up on Joe Bennett's art on Immortal Hulk.
Wasn't beating up on his art. I think he draws monsters well. I think he draws the grotesque in humans differently. His faces look very wide and flat when he draws just a person.
Those are criticisms.
Those are criticism, but it's not me saying it's bad. It's that's what I was trying to make. There's a difference in criticism.
Boy, oh boy.
You can
backpedaling about this that was referenced to this story.
You can say something. You can criticize something without saying it shouldn't exist, without saying it shouldn't be made. That's the point I was trying to make. This is just things to my.
Whereas he says Kudaransky should never.
Kudaransky shouldn't. Yeah, no. Like, why is that? Yeah, stop hiring that dude to make.
Oh wow!
Pages.
Actually, wants him to be unemployed.
Yeah, no, and
wow.
Actually, if he could
a lot of vitriol there.
Be a robot, that'd be great. No, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna stay on this book. AWA is a publisher I need to maybe dip back into. This has made me kind of reassess and revert my opinion, so to speak, on what I need to read. So what about you guys? Are you staying on this? Are you going somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm staying on it.
Yeah, it's Mark Russell, and to be quite honest, I didn't sign up for it. I don't know how I missed it because I've been going through the AWA books pretty closely. Somehow I missed this one, but I'm going to get on it. So
nice. Did you guys see where they are doing a deluxe edition of Mark Russell's Flintstone book?
As they should.
Yeah, mentioned on the last show.
Yeah,
that should be required reading in in college.
Everywhere. Yeah, it's amazing. I want to know what kind of back matter and stuff they're planning on sticking in there. Is it going to have just essays?
I will be
what's
buying
be
it
there?
regardless. So
yeah, it's going to go on the shelf. Are there any other AWA books that like we're sleeping on?
Hotel was a good one. That was like that Twilight Zone. I reviewed it kind of at the beginning. That one was really good. They're kind of slipping my mind now that you ask me.
I remember the Resistance is
the Strazinski one.
Yeah,
and they're actually on the second part of that. And I didn't pick it up. And I don't remember the name of this one. I'm sorry, but there was one about a trucker that was killing people and keeping them stored in the back of the truck. That one was pretty decent. There's been some good ones, and they're just slipping my mind right now. But there was one that was they were eating Hispanics Mexicans that came up across the border in southern Texas. There was a family that was bringing them in and acting like they were saving them, but then they would eat them.
Jesus.
And sometimes serving Mexicans to other Mexicans. Like they were cooking tacos that were made of Mexicans. I think that one was Red Border. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So
that seems a little bit of a hard book.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how all of these things are interrelated, but I know it was supposed to be a shared universe, but I just don't see how it possibly is. But yeah, there's been some really good ones. But again, some not so good, but when they're good, they're really good.
Gonna dive back in. Matt, what would you name your house robot?
My house robot. Boy, that's gonna take some thought. Yeah.
Not sure yet.
Robot number one.
I could see you naming it Headbutt. If we're sticking with the murder names,
it would be Jaded. That's going to be the name of it. Jaded.
Whatever its unit number is, that's probably what I would call it.
Hey, 4.
Yeah.
Unit XC43.
Yeah.
Willis Procasio. Sticking with that one.
Yep. Yeah.
That just
he accused me of that's how I would name my robot. But he's the one that flat out says he would name
No,
it
these are two different
units.
things. We're talking about specific Star Wars references. You're gonna name your robot a droid. That's blatantly obvious.
I think he would name it Vader.
No, I don't see that happening. No. And I think, he'll go on to a long reason why here in a second.
No.
I stopped him. Did you
Name
hear him take a
Darth-
breath?
Darth Ovary.
Yeah.
Darth Ovary. Yeah. All right. Got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could live in any of Frank Miller's worlds, which one would you want to live in?
Well, it wouldn't be.
His worlds are not good places to live in.
It wouldn't be.
There's no good answer to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the Daredevil world he wrote for a while.
Yeah. I know what city I wouldn't want to live in.
Yeah, I know there's a few I wouldn't want to live in. I wouldn't want to live in his Gotham.
No, there's mutants in that place.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't want to live in Sparta at the time that he wrote that.
No.
So, yeah. And I sure as fuck wouldn't want to live in Basin City.
I would not want to live in Basin City either. But we did live in Basin City for a little bit this week because we all got together on the behest of one Mr. Matt Trogdon. And we all got together and decided to read Frank Miller's Sin City, the first volume in this, which was A Hard Goodbye. To just revisit it. I think we're all fans of the work. This is for me. What year did this come out in? 2001?
91.
91?
Yeah, 91.
2001. Kids.
Well, no, I say that because this is I have the 2001
go.
published edition. So 91 when this came out. I was 5. So I didn't get to experience this as it was coming out in Dark Horse Presents by any means.
That's because your parents didn't love you.
That's about 5 years worth of therapy in one sentence. You're just going to silently cry through the rest of the show. No, I revisited this when the film came out. Like, that's the first time I had this. In fact, the edition that I have has got the little now a major motion picture sticker on the front of it.
I have a feeling you're probably one of 40, 50 million people that revisited when the movie came out.
But I mean, just not even revisit. That was the first time I experienced this. So it was not when things had changed a little bit when the book had came out. And the world had, but the thing is, the world had not changed so much. Like when I read this almost over a decade after it was published, there are things in this book that are so timely and so just universal that they translated perfectly. It was a dark, it almost fits better in a post 9/11 world, I think, as far as people's, like you said, people being jaded and just understanding the dark part of history. And so, I think anybody now knows the story. So there's not really, I don't want to do a recap in the way that we do a recap and walk you through it. You meet Marv. Marv wakes up next to a dead girl, and it throws him down a rabbit hole of conspiracy and governmental.
Well, just put it this way: if you've seen the movie, the adaptation is almost panel for panel.
It's fairly true. I think they
there's one scene that I caught that wasn't in the movie.
Well, and there's parts of the film that are from subsequent books in this, but as far as what's here,
this particular chapter of the movie,
So what was your? But both of you guys, I think Matt probably read this when it was kind of new, or at least newer. What was y'all's first experience with Sin City and Frank Miller's work?
Mine was the movie.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I read it after the movie, so.
So my first, whenever this was in 91, I was 13. I was getting Wizard magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And this was all over Wizard magazine. But being 13, I didn't have ready access to a comic book store.
Right.
So I did not have access to these because these were not spinner rack comic books.
Right.
So I kept seeing, Frank Miller, Sin City for years and years and years. I get my driver's license. Obviously, the first place I go is a comic book store.
Fair.
But still, these weren't on the shelf really by the time I got over there. The first Sin City book I picked up was a one-shot called Sex and Violence.
Mm-hmm.
I was 16. The title obviously grabs me. So I was like, what the hell is this? Sex and Violence, sold. And I was blown away by it because it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. The art that Frank Miller did. Of course, it's a one-shot crime story. Very good, really compelling story. And I was like, wow, this is very interesting, very unlike anything I'd read before. So I went back and started looking for the old Sin City material and started reading it. So I was, I first got into this material when I was 16, 17 years old.
And we can see how it helped form the Matt Trotman.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean,
it's very, very formative.
It was fertile. I was fertile ground for the Sin City seed to be planted.
The little Matt got his car. His parents worried. Is he going to go out drinking? Is he going to go out doing drugs? Yeah. He head straight to the comic store and grab something worse. Frank Miller.
Much romance in this material.
Well, that's what. So one of the things that I found interesting about the material is this. So this is the third time I've ever read this. I read it the first time, and what was interesting reading this now is I've also gone through and read Lone Wolf and Cub, which Frank Miller famously did a lot of the covers for as far when Dark Horse published them. It didn't strike me until his third reading how much of a samurai story this is. It's a Ronin story. It's a masterless fighter going through trying to has given his word.
A gladiator that's out of time.
Yeah,
he's in the wrong era. He's in the wrong location. He's not. He is somebody that is not fit to live in today's societal world.
No, but he's a romantic, which was interesting, and I don't think I remember picking up on that in previous readings, but it really something about reading it this time. Matt's right. There is a lot of romance in this book. He romanticizes. He romanticizes the world that he can't be a part of, and that's part of when he falls in love with Goldie, and Goldie's sister, and even though he knows it was never accessible to him, or he knows it was purely just a facade, he romanticizes it, And like, and that ties back to where I was going with this being kind of a Ronin story, a samurai story.
He certainly finds it his duty to avenge this woman's death for no other reason than the only two reasons are she came to him for protection and he failed, and two, she gave him something that no other woman had given him.
Yeah,
those were the only two reasons he had, but he was going to avenge her death at any cost. And there is something Ronin about that.
Well, he found a beauty in the world that was plucked away from him, and that's what I thought was fantastic. And you can see a lot of it's some of the panels in this. You see a lot of the work that he's pulling from from Lone Wolf and Cub, like the layouts of the panels, the graininess of it all. Having not had read that, I didn't pick up on that last time I read it. Having not read Lone Wolf and Cub yet, but now that I go through and read it this time, there's so much of that that look and that he's channeling into his work, obviously through a Frank Miller lens. But as far as the black and white work and the graininess, especially when the scenes where it rains, he really does pay a beautiful homage to that work, to Lone Wolf and Cub story and artwork, and how it was just. I think that was probably. It's one of those things I want to go back and listen to Frank Miller interviews, because I think that had to have been a work that meant a lot to him. And obviously he did the covers and the American adaptations, but I can see him studying on those, because it's a masterwork. That was kind of my big takeaway from the book is that.
I mean, you talk about the artwork and you talk about the layouts, and I don't think you can overemphasize the layouts in these books and what they do and did for comics. I mean, you've got your book open, and I'm looking at a page that you have it open to. Instead of blam, blam, blam being just in the background when he fires his gun, it's the panels spelling out the word blam. Yep.
So this is just another thing that Frank Miller did this when he came back from Hollywood. He went to Hollywood to write scripts. This is the first thing he did when he got back. And he changed comics once again. Yeah. The guy found another way to change the industry. When this came out, there were no crime comics to speak of. I mean, they just weren't there. There was no market for them, allegedly.
Right.
So he comes back and does this in 91, in the midst of the Image guys at the peak of their powers. This is basically the antithesis of everything those guys were doing. There's not big bright colors. Obviously it's black and white. There's not bombastic outfits. There's not there's no super. This is a hard-boiled crime noir, it's black and white. So it's like the antithesis of what was going on in the 90s. And when I first saw it, that's what stuck out. I was like, this is
different.
It was so different. It was so different. It was just like, I didn't even really know what to think of it. So he revitalized the genre of crime in the comic book industry.
Yeah.
And, of course, immediately people started to ape this art style. Big standout is Death Blow, the Image book Death Blow. Yeah. Jim Lee started trying to do his version of this, automatically. And Frank Miller addresses that in further Sin City pieces of work, interestingly enough, if you look close. But, as far as the Marv character, so this feels like Conan the Barbarian, born too late. Very much like Conan the Barbarian, born too late. He's got his own set of morals he operates by. They're not necessarily marketable very well. So, he's always living, hand to mouth, basically. And in further work, he says what, and specifically in, I think it's A Dame to Kill For is when in Frank Miller's narrative says that the character Dwight says, he was just born too late. If he was born, 500 years ago, they'd been throwing women and money at him all day.
Yeah.
So it was and everybody loves the character Marv. I mean, it's a fascinating character,
and he has such great lines.
Oh yeah,
especially in this story.
Yeah.
Which the thing you need to know about Sin City, if you haven't read it before, is it's a non-linear. It's told in a non-linear storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So it jumps back and forth in time. It's non-chronological the way it was released. So Marv makes appearances in many other stories. But some of his lines in this are just great. When he tells Rourke, "You can scream now."
Yeah.
It's
I know it's pretty damn weird to eat people.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that line.
Can you read this book now that the movie's been out and not read it in Mickey Rourke's voice?
I mean, I can because I read it before.
Yeah. For me, it's Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
When I'm reading it, it's.
I loved Mickey Rourke's portrayal on that. If we're talking about the movie, I loved his portrayal of Marv.
Yeah.
I really did. When I heard this was being adapted into a movie, my mind was blown. I was like, what?
How?
I was like, this, And then when Mickey Rourke was announced to play Marv, I didn't know what to think about it. I didn't know what to think about that. So I went in it with an open mind, no expectations. But yeah, Mickey Rourke's definitely the standout in the movie. There's no doubt about it. But the overall though, I really just was sucked into everything about the story, the artwork, the panel layouts, super, super innovative look. I mean, this is just Frank Miller's creative mind is quite something to behold.
Yeah, so, I quit reading comics in the 80s and really didn't read any 90s comics as they were coming out. So I came back in the 2000s to comics. And it was about the time Sin City came out, and I had went to the comic book stores you like to do and asked them for recommendations, and, the movie had hit. They've got trades on the wall because of that, so they hand me Sin City. I don't know anything previous to this that was this style of comic. As you said, there's nothing else in the 90s going on this way. The 80s were all bright colored superheroes,
What I found, so a couple of things in this book too, as far as visually speaking, Frank Miller does this cool thing where throughout the book he puts in some of the superheroes that he has written, and maybe doesn't, he's angry about the prominence of those characters. Like one of the sex workers at the end of the story is in a Wonder Woman costume. There's a scene in here where if you look real closely, it's Clark Kent getting just murdered. So he throws in those. Also found it interesting. Something I noticed this time. When he's in the city, it's very dark. There's not a lot of detail thrown in there. He does a lot with this idea of letting your mind fill in the gaps. As he gets out of the city, as he's going to the farm, and the first time you really notice it is the iguana walking across the road. He takes, and in the middle of these things, he drops these almost realistic little blips every once in a while, just to show the clarity of what it might be like outside of Sin City, and how these details are more notable in a place that's not so grimy, not so covered in muck and noise. And I thought that was interesting. Like that. It's a cool way to quiet down the atmosphere of the book by adding more detail into these little moments that just kind of knocked my socks off.
Well, the thing about this book is when you talk about it being black and white, you're talking about it being black and white. It's not gray tones. Mm-hmm. It's black and white with a pop of color here and there, but not in this particular storyline. The use of negative space to draw.
Yeah.
Most of this book, all of the characters are drawn in negative space. When you look at them closely,
yeah,
that's not easy to do.
No, he's a master. That's why Frank Miller is just Frank Miller. That page you were talking about earlier, the blam 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 page, that's a moment where he's killing a priest, and I've read some interviews in the past. Where I think it was actually an interview with Garth Ennis, talking about his Punisher series. And he says, what's the one thing that you wanted to do in your Punisher series that they wouldn't let you do at Marvel? And he said, well, I really wanted to kill a priest in the book, but they would not let me do that. I think that was kind of universal, and I think that Frank Miller had experience like that too, so that was why it's important to him to have this moment. But it's also showing how the constructs of society, be it politics or the church or whatever.
I was going to say it's a commentary on society. It's a commentary on the social structures of the world at the time and even today. This family that runs Basin City, they've got their hands in everything from politics to pedophilia to church. To, I mean, it's every way that you could control people, they've got their hands in it. So, and it was
it was fine when that mindset. We think about those things and how it wraps in today, because I think this book holds up really well, and it's just as timely today as it was when it was written. But you think about the QAnon cult, the people who they've taken something
I don't think
they've taken something that Frank Miller spoke about in 1991 with this whole owning family and this conspiracy theory, and now it's a part of a major political movement. It's weird.
You're saying those people read something?
No, I'm not saying.
I'm
not saying that.
No, they didn't.
No, and
they completely misunderstood it.
Well, if they did, they misunderstood it. No, but that's where I'm saying that this book matters today as much as then, and it helps us contextualize the world that we lived in, the world that we live in now, because you see some of this same thing through the eyes of Marv. In that same token, Frank Miller, the way that he writes is very rough. The way that he writes is not a sensitive way of writing, and it never has been, and I don't think it ever will be. If he wrote something today, I don't think it would be. But that goddamn phone, I'm just going to let it ring. What I found interesting here, even like the way that he writes the sex workers in this book, he calls them whores and stuff, but he also is very respectful of them. And so it's that kind of thing that as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like, okay, the old man down the street might use the wrong vernacular, like he might say the wrong thing, but I would rather have somebody who means well and respects me say the wrong thing than have somebody who's well spoken just degrade me with polite language. And I think that's a lot of what Marv does, and that's a part of that character. And I'm not saying that's Frank Miller. Obviously, that's him writing the character. But I think we think of like political correctness, and I think that Frank was a little bit ahead of his time in the way that he was talking about showing these people in a positive light.
Marv didn't use the right words, but he did the right thing.
Yeah.
So now there is a comment on there about using the word whore.
Yeah.
When the priest calls Wendy a whore. Or Goldie a whore, and he says, you probably shouldn't talk about her like that with me here.
Right.
So, and in the Sin City universe, sex workers
have power.
Yeah,
have a lot of power.
It's not, they operate without pimps, without, they control their own universe, let's say. So it's a little bit different than our universe.
A little bit.
Yeah. So this past week I got on our Facebook page and I asked people about, is there any pages in comics that just kind of live rent free in your brain? If you flip through your head, you're thinking about comics, any pages that you just think about for no reason sometimes. And of course the go-to page that I went to was from the Avengers. It's that I will have words with the Thor
Banana
talking
muffin.
Yeah. Banana muffin. The Blam Bam Blam page is very much so. Like I think about this page often for absolutely no reason. I'll just be walking down the street chewing bubblegum and think about the Blam Bam Blam page.
Again, it was so different from what we'd seen in other comics at that point. So it was, it just sticks in your head.
Yeah.
I love when after Marv's in a fight with the police at the beginning, and he shows up. I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but his parole officer's house, and he bandages himself up, and he's just got like band-aids and X's all over his body.
Yeah.
She's like, well, did you kill any of them? Well, no, but they know they've been in a fight.
Yeah,
just him walking around. I mean, here's this tough guy, and he's got a little bruise with an X band-aid on his head.
Yeah.
That's a nice coat.
He did love a good coat.
He did love a good coat. They don't make them like that anymore.
Well, something about the little touch that is really fascinating to me is the whole Marv's medication angle.
Yeah.
So it's like, why exactly is he taking the medication? Is this just holding him together type thing? Or is this like somebody gave him, like, no, like he's operating on this medieval level, basically, you know, and, you know, was he prescribed this medication to, like, you know, try to bring him? Was he
prescribed it, or was his parole officer giving it to him? Because she gives him some when he shows up. She's like, yeah, I know why you're here. Just, it's better that you're on this than you're not.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to say whether he's really prescribed it or not, whatever that medication may be.
It almost becomes a placebo because I think that's part of the point, though, because you don't know what it is, you don't know what the exact purpose is, but as he stops taking it, you know, he allows himself, because it's the same Marv, right? Like, it's like there's not a much.
Well, that's what's the question is. What would he be like without his medication?
Exactly, like it's
confused.
That's the thing. Is like, what, you know? Are people no, Marv? You're confused. You know, or does he see things way too clearly?
Yeah,
because this guy's obviously operating outside of normal societal bounds. And in doing that, people are like, no, you don't see things the way they are. Here's some medication.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that you get from this.
Yeah. It's almost
he's taking this because he's been told to, because it's obvious. He keeps repeating the phrase, when you've got a condition, you've got to take your medication. That's been fed to him, you know.
And he doesn't take one pill. He pours the bottle
and he's doing it, and he's doing it wrong, you know. So it's definitely not a placebo. It's definitely not a placebo.
Happening.
No, but it works as a safety blanket for him, because once he doesn't have it, he lets himself do what he needs to do. And he always knew, like, he always knew where he was headed. I think he always knew what he was going to do. But there's this almost moment where the medication, like, he just drops it, and he becomes okay with where he's going, because he doesn't have it anymore. He's like, okay, I don't have access anymore, so fuck it, let me just go. It almost acts as a safety blanket, or acted as a safety blanket when he didn't have an end game, and when he knew the end game, he just didn't want it anymore. He just threw it out. Like, part of me wonders if, you know, when this was written, you know, I'm part of the Ritalin generation, and that was the answer to everything. You just feed them Ritalin. You feed the kids Ritalin. You get them addicted to these, you know, basically meth that we now are paying a price for. You know, there's all kinds of issues.
I think we would have paid a price if we didn't get Marv addicted to something.
But, like, part of me, like what I'm saying is, I wonder if, you know, if that's part of what Frank Miller is saying. If that was part of that over-medicated society, if he's making that statement.
I mean, it's hard to tell with Frank Miller. It could just be a commentary on Marv himself, or it could be it's a societal.
I tell you what, it seems obvious to me. I mean, this guy is, again, he's operating
under
outside of today's societal bounds. You know, when he said, you know, he was born out of time.
Yeah.
So you need to be here's pills, because you can't operate that way. That's not the way the world works. Yeah. Here's pills.
So I mean, it's a commentary on all of it, for sure. But yeah, he Marv's a great character.
I love that he keeps his gun at his mom's house.
Yeah, Gladys.
Little touches like that.
I love that he loves his mom.
Yeah,
like, you know, you're talking about the complexity of the guy, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the character of Marv is very gruff. He says the wrong things. He's not politically correct. He's not fit for polite society. But he loves his mother. He respects, like, the women that nobody else respects. He takes up for people that, you know, the bar owner. There's this moment, I didn't even catch this before, but the bar owner is a trans woman, and he talks about this trans woman. You know, you know, other people give her shit, but I don't pay for a drink in her bar. I've done her favors. Like, that's his friend. And look, we're talking about, you know, people. You know, I can only speak for where I grew up in, but I grew up in the late 90s and 2000s. People didn't respect trans people. They didn't, like, that wasn't there. And so, like, for him being in there, like, I have a newfound respect for this mentality of, it really is live and let live. Like, I'm going to find the people who are outcast and who society looks down on. Those are my people, and I'll protect them at all costs. And he protected them.
I mean, I would hate, well, I kind of would like to see, I don't know if it's in one of them I haven't read yet or not, because I can't say I've read every story in this yet, but what he did to the frat boy that messed with Nancy, if it's not in one of them, I would love to see what he did to that guy.
The scene in the book, just for violence sake, where he's got the guy bent over backwards, shoving his head in the toilet. It's amazing. But no,
Frank Miller had a thing about swirlies too.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, and I think this is where I was getting at. Oddly enough, this is one of the most respectful versions of Frank Miller writing a book that I've read, because in his other work he's not. You know, he's like, I mean, you go to his probably most, I don't know what the right word is, notorious work, which is the one that he wrote right after 9/11, which is, you know, actually that popped up recently because it's a very racist work. I forget the name of it even.
Holy Terror.
Yeah, Holy Terror. Like, it's just straight up racism distilled into a book. But then you have this where he's playing in this weird middle ground where he is being very respectful. I mean, you've got work and other stuff that he did that he's not, you know, very respectful of women in any way, shape, or form. But in this, he is in the strangest of ways, and it's it's almost a dichotomy in the way that he boils down and is.
I mean,
accepting?
In fairness, and Holy Terror it is what it is, and I'm not going to justify that in any way, shape, or form. Most of the country had very strong feelings about Islam and Muslims at that point in time. You could probably go back to most of the United States, most people that were alive during that time, and they probably had very racist, Islamophobic views of Muslims at that time. And that doesn't justify the work, that doesn't justify what happened. Just putting that out there.
No, I mean, I grew up, growing up in rural Arkansas, I was a kid, but, you know, I'm very much, I remember hearing that. I remember saying things because my mom and dad were saying them, because the people around me were saying them.
Almost every one of us is probably without, not everyone, because I can't speak for everyone, but most people in that time frame are probably not without some sort of
absolutely
Islamophobe.
Yeah, especially in white America. It's very, very complicit in that. Yeah. And it takes a lot of deprogramming to get out of that. And
he's apologized multiple times for that work.
Well, so what brought that up? This 2 weeks ago, he had been invited to a show, I want to say in London or someplace in the UK, and then he got uninvited because some other people were like, some Islamic comic creators were just like, yeah, I mean, I'm not coming. And a bunch of them just dropped out because he was going to be there. And so they're talking to him, and he's doing an interview, and he's like, look, I couldn't write that book again today. Like, I'm not that person. I'm not in that place. And so, yeah, he's apologized for it, but it's one of those things that it stands on his own, and you have to take it on that own. But then you read a book like this, which he wrote before that, and again, I'm not justifying the language in it. I'm not saying anything good about, but there is a respectfulness for.
He uses derogatory terms to describe people, but then uses that same person using the derogatory terms
to uplift them,
fight with them and fight for them in the same. Yeah. Breath.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me.
It's also very much a dichotomy of that time.
Yeah.
Well, these derogatory terms that he's using, this is if anybody has noticed, a derogatory world this is set in. Right. They're going to use derogatory words because this is an ugly, ugly place.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair to say this is Frank Miller's voice.
No,
this is a narrative.
Right. Yeah. And I think
that happens a lot with Frank Miller. People want to say, "Oh, well, this is his, commentary."
Exactly.
He's painting pictures. Right. He's writing a story. These are his characters'
That's
voices.
Right. And I haven't read Holy Terror.
Yeah.
Probably won't ever read it. But, I don't know if it's the same thing. Is it through the eyes of a character, or is it intended to be his voice? Is it intended to be this character's voice? Or, in not to get harp on that, but going back to this, it would be very, very weird if Marv called the owner of the bar a transgendered woman. I mean,
he doesn't have the vernacular.
Yeah, or to call a gay man gay as opposed to the words he uses.
Yeah.
It would be out of place to use those terms coming from Marv.
And to Matt's point, I was purely talking about Marv as a character, being this dichotomy of a character.
Right.
Now, I will say I'm of two minds to that point too, though.
I think that is very true when you're talking about a singular work, and that you know the character is the character's voice. Now, on the other hand, you can look at if you look at somebody's breadth of work, you know, if they write 20 books and their 20 books all deal with the same theme, use the same thing and everything, I think that does say something about the writer. Now, whether or not you can attribute absolute, unqualified things to them, no, I don't think that's fair. But when you write 20 books and in all the 20 books, all the women are displayed badly, or they're abused, or you know they have these terrific things or horrific things happen to them, or you know if all of them the villain is the black guy, stuff like that. I think I think it is fair to at least talk about okay, what is the writer themselves, what are they trying to convey, because they're trying to convey something throughout their body of work. And I think
it depends on how the people are portrayed in the stories as well. Or those people portrayed as villains that are doing those things. So I mean I think the commentary comes down to the person making these bad calls. Yeah. Are they portrayed as the good guy or the bad guy? And if it's a anti-hero in one book versus 100 books, it's a different. You're right. I mean, the body of work does speak, but you have to look at it in the context that it's actually presented in.
Well, and that's where I'm saying for a book like this, I don't think that you can just come out and say unilateral things about Frank Miller about his viewpoints, because of the way that he respects he is writing in 1991 about respecting sex workers and how they have a legitimate business. Mm-hmm. He's writing about how transsexuals, trans folk can be owners, can have straight, cisgendered, non-queer friends that look out for them and do them favors. So that's where I'm saying with this, though, you can't do that. Exactly what I just said. Look over 20 books with Frank Miller without understanding some of the nuances of what he's doing here. And he's doing it in 1991. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not the neoliberal world that we live in today. A few years after this, you have Marilyn Manson putting out a song called, a remake of a song. I'm not going to say the words, but it's rock and roll, derogative term for black people. Where this got a lot of radio play. Like the language and the viewpoints, the vernacular that they use in here were commonplace. I mean, Guns N' Roses put out an album 2 years before this where, the F-bomb was all over it. So it just happens. Pantera had Confederate flags and stuff waving everywhere not too long after this. So it's an entirely different world where Frank Miller's saying, hey, I'm going to use the wrong, or has Marv saying, hey, I'm going to use the wrong words here. But have you thought about it this way? And to me, it's very much before its time, and I really appreciated going back and reading this. It opens up a whole new level.
It's rough to read those words in the world we live in today, but it would be so out of place to not have those words used by the particular character. Yeah. It would be so out of place that it would be in your face bad. It would be bad writing to write it any other way.
Disingenuous.
Right. Yeah. And the like I said, the shocking part was it's funny reading it now. The shocking part is not the words. It's that this character, this person who fits in the mold, is accepting and is loving and is protective of the people that he's protective of.
It's one of the things, we all played a video game a couple years back, Red Dead Redemption 2. They did not shy away from the terms that were used to describe different races and different ethnicities at the time. Mm-hmm. It would be disingenuous, as Matt says, to the time of what they're doing. Yeah. You into what that character is about. You have to be honest to the character.
Yeah. And I think
or you're not really,
it reminds me of the Quentin Tarantino, Django film, where they were having this moment where Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to drop an N-bomb and just was having a hard time with it. He doesn't like saying the word for obvious reasons. But then you have Samuel L. Jackson, and he just said, "Motherfucker, say the word." Like we're on film. This is part of a script. This is not, to Matt's point, this is not you. This is your character. And it's part of the moment. It's part and parcel. So, and I think the point, the part of the point he was making was that, it is disingenuous, but it's also the way in which it's used. It's not romanticizing it. It's showing the ugly part of it. In Red Dead Redemption, it did a little bit of that too. It shows you, okay, this was commonplace, but do you see how, even in the context that it was used, do you see how ugly it was? Mm-hmm. And that's a good reminder, because if you don't remind yourself of that, especially, some people don't need reminded of that. The people who it was used against, they don't need to be reminded of that. but for folks like us, and I'm speaking like as a white dude, like it's very easy for us to forget the pain that those words carried and carry today. And if you forget about that, and I think that's why it's part of a lot of our conversation now, it's because, okay, this was normalized for so long, then it became taboo, slowly starting to become normalized again in certain parts of our culture, and let's remember why it shouldn't be. And you know, Django reminds us of that. I think books like this remind us of that. Sin City. You know, I don't remember the parts of Red Dead particularly well, but it probably does something similar. So it's like I said, you know, time is a flat circle sometimes, and we have to tap into those moments.
Well, I'm glad that we read this book.
Yep.
For no other reason that I got to open my big damn Sim City book.
Okay.
Which I have to read flat on my coffee table.
It's
because
so heavy.
you can't hold it. And I hold up the one side while I'm reading so that it doesn't bend the binding. I'm gonna have to get something to wedge underneath the.
Does that count as curls?
It might. I was pretty wore out by the time I was done reading these 200 pages that make up this.
Speaking of which, 200 pages, but I reread this in like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
It's anything but text heavy.
Yeah. It's a fast read.
It's so much of it is done in the art, and done so well in the art. You know, Frank Miller probably gets a little bit too much crap for his art today. No, Frank Miller gets justified crap for his art today. But it was this that's led to that style of art and everything he draws now.
Matt's got a page open, and it was one of those throwbacks to characters that he's written. There's a character in this called Weasel that I really have a hard time not believing it was Frank Miller poking fun at Wolverine just because of the way his hair looks and everything else. Yeah. Playing with Wolverine a little bit in that book. No, so okay, you read you have the Big Damn
Sim City.
Yeah, omnibus. Matt, you've got your copy with us. What is your copy? When did that come out?
This is the first collected edition of first Sin City arc.
Taking care of that book. I would have thought it was newer than that.
Well, so before that, it came out in different forms until it finally was collected. It was released in Dark Horse Presents, like the first, I want to say 6 or 8 issues were released in Dark Horse Presents before he started releasing his own.
I missed that. There's a couple of things that came out of Dark Horse Presents that
Hellboy.
Yeah, I was going to say the first Hellboy was in that too. Mine is like I said earlier, it's a 2005 copy, a little bit smaller than Matt's. I'm a little bit jealous I'm jealous that Matt's is bigger than mine. But I would love to. I need to get a copy of this where the pages are blown up, especially the pages of some of my favorite pages of the book where he's staring at the statue of the Pope.
Sim City.
Yeah,
I paid too much for mine because when I bought it, it was out of print.
Yeah,
and now it's back in print heavily. Now mine is the first printing of Big Damn Sim City, but it's still I paid way too much for it.
For what it's worth, apparently you're better off reading the collected editions of the Sin City work altogether because Frank Miller goes in and adds panels that weren't in the initial releases.
Really?
Yeah. So he goes in and adds panels that weren't originally in
to help clarify something or whatever.
Like he saw a fault in his own storytelling, and he goes back and puts a panel in there.
So George Lucasing the
he's not ruining it. He's not ruining it and trying to change the context.
So what you're saying is Marv did in fact shoot first.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the moment that Matt left the show.
Yeah. God.
Man,
it's such great work. If you haven't read it, if all your experience is the 2 movies, do yourself a favor and read it.
It's solid. I just like flipping to the pages, man. The perspective of the camera angles of when he's in the cell at the farm. Like just look at those lines. Like that's
she's talking to him and he's hanging from the bar, shaking them, trying to get the bars to come loose. And
it's an incredible work. It's something. Yeah, I'm glad we revisited it. And like I said, the Blam Bam Blam pages is one of my favorite.
What brought this on is about 2 months ago. I was going to open my book, and I texted Matt and told him I was going to start reading it.
It's okay, his friends call him Max.
Yeah, and he said, "Why don't we do this on one of our Chaos episodes?" I thought, we really need to. So
And
that's what.
To add extra chaos, we're doing a chaos episode in the middle of a month.
That's
just more.
So it's like meta.
Yeah,
it's meta chaos.
The chaos is
we're breaking the fourth wall of podcasts.
We're breaking our own rules.
Well, so the big question is, I think for all of us, are we going to now keep reading this series?
I am, because I've opened it.
Yeah.
So now I need to.
You gonna go home and break open the second book?
Yeah, I mean, I've read all the Sin City already.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. I hadn't read the first arc in a long time.
Yeah.
I had the story itself I'd remembered, but I had forgotten how different the art was when the series started versus when it ended, and how Frank Miller's style evolved throughout the series itself.
Also interesting that he's inking himself in this book, and I think that makes a world of difference.
Oh yeah, of course.
And with Frank Miller's work, because some of the work that Frank Miller gets shit for, part of the getting shit is just the is the inking, and that's not necessarily Frank Miller's fault. Because of the fact, especially in his later works, Frank Miller is very loose with his pencils, and the inker fills in a lot of the stuff that is faulted. A lot of it that never came out of Frank Miller's hand.
Little touch that I always appreciated in these books is on the back, the price is spelled out. $15 in the U.S., $21 in Canada. Yours is like that.
Mine says $17.
Yeah. I always thought that was funny.
How much was it?
See the way it's actually spelled out. $15 in the U.S.
I never noticed that. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's funny. Well, all right. So if you have never experienced this, like Craig said, jump on it. You gotta get on it, man. This is quintessential work.
If you've seen the movie, it's going to feel very familiar to you because, like I said, I think there was only one scene that I don't remember being in the movie from this deal. But yeah, you absolutely need to read this book.
I'd love to hear the kayfabe guys hold up Lone Wolf and Cub next to Sin City and break down from an artist perspective the things that they pull.
You're talking about the whole of Sin City or this particular
work?
I
mean that you could do it just with this particular work, but just talk about the similarities and stuff and what Miller is doing there that is connected to the work in Lone Wolf and Cub. Be a fascinating interview or a fascinating experience to hear them talk about that. Because they bring a perspective that not many, like we're not artists, so we can't do that, but they speak in that language. So, well, all right, this was fun. Let's do this again sometime, maybe next week.
We're not artists, but some of us know what good art is. Some of us.
Next week, as they are wont to do, new comics come out Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday nowadays.
Yeah, I didn't get my comics till yesterday. Law school is just fucking up my whole program. But we are going to grab some books. We have no idea if we're going to like them or if we're not going to like them, but we're going to suggest them. So, it comes with that caveat. So this next week, what are you guys pulling off the wall?
I'm going to pick up a book called Campisi from Aftershock Comics by James Patrick, Marco Licati, and Fran Galen, I think is how you say her name. This is a book about a mob fixer that gets tasked with getting rid of a dragon when the dragon comes to New York City.
Okay, that's not where I thought you were going.
So this should be right up Matt's alley.
Yeah,
it's got the mob. It's got dragons.
I read.
It's got a dude with a baseball bat going to take on a dragon. That can only work out well, I assume.
Just see Tony Soprano slapping Smog right in the mouth.
So there's a book for you to read. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but it seems like it'll be interesting.
I'm tapped into it. I'm going to check it out. What about you, Matt?
From Dynamite, Red Sonia, Black, White, and Red. This is the second issue. This is, again, a collection. There's going to be 3 independent stories. The creators, they pull from all over the industry to write these little short stories, so I'm really looking forward to this one again.
Nice. I still have not read that first issue, and I've got to. It's on my little stack of things to read at home. At least it looks so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to put my face on it.
Oh, hello.
I am going to grab from the House of Ideas next week, and I'm really, really excited about this. I've been giddy since it got announced, but it is Defenders #1. This is written. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's the Defenders. Like, I
had no doubt when I saw that was on this week's that it was going to be Caleb.
I still haven't. So I got the Defenders Omnibus this past year, and I've read it, and I still haven't put it back on the shelf. It's still sitting next to my little reading chair.
Usually that happens for me because I start reading them.
Yeah.
And then I never finish them. It's like, I'm going to get back to that, and then I don't. So they pile up and pile up.
I just don't want to put it back on the shelf. It's just awesome. I also need to throw away the dust cover. But
no, you do not need to throw away the
dust. I hate dust covers. I hate them.
Yeah, but throwing it away.
Yeah, that's...
What am I going to do with them?
God. Put it in your dust cover file. The man doesn't have a dust cover file. Can you believe this?
I'm so sad by the fact that you said you're going to throw away a dust cover.
Matt, come over and fix my house so I can know the appropriate place to store dust covers. You keep them?
Absolutely.
I never take them off of my book.
Oh, I fucking hate them. I hate them with a passion.
They're there to protect your book, Caleb.
From dust.
And from just general banging around of your book.
These grimy fingers.
Yes.
No,
You're getting your fingerprints all over the leather bound.
Because the leather looks better. I'd rather see worn leather than... I just don't
Then
like
you
them.
put the dust cover in the dust cover file.
I will go home.
We are talking in circles here.
Yeah,
I'll go home and...
It's just like this. We're here. And we're talking, and Caleb's down about a foot below us, and it's
Kids
just all
in their
going
music
right over.
files.
You may be giving a segment of our audience the wrong visual with that one.
Caleb's down below.
I wish you could have seen. Wish the kids at home could have seen Craig's hands. It was pretty great. Rich, dumb, young nymphomaniac. Anyway, so adding to why you need to bring home Defenders, since I was so rudely interrupted. Number one, Will's Portaccio has nothing to do with this book, but also
I don't believe you.
Al Ewing is writing this with a little helpy help from the amazing artist who is Javier Rodriguez. And so what is this book about? Well, when existence itself faces an extraordinary threat, it needs an extraordinary defense. That's when you call the Defenders. This is not your old school team of the Defenders, though. It does have Doctor Strange, as it should. But you also have the Masked Raider, and they take a non-team, which is, throwback to the old school stuff, of Marvel's weirdest and wildest heroes on a mission that will uncover the hidden architecture of reality itself. The cosmos was not the first to exist, but if the Defenders can't track Marvel's oldest villain through the deepest trenches of time, it might be the last. Look, I'm going to pick up just about anything Al Ewing writes, and if Al Ewing is writing the Defenders, definitely getting this. I might get 2 copies just because. Just why not? So go check that out. It's going to be good
Well,
stuff.
we know you don't care about the quality of your book, so you're not buying it, so you have an unread copy.
Yeah. You're done spitting on it and whatnot.
Do you dog-ear your books, too?
Of course he does.
I put tabs on mine. So I know when I can go back and reference them. And if you think I'm joking, I'm not. Like
Sticky tabs?
Everybody knows you're not joking.
Half of my books at home have tabs in them so I can go back and study pages.
He has a spreadsheet, too, that tells him what page
but I should absolutely get a spreadsheet of my tabs.
Oh, I'm really disappointed.
Great.
That he doesn't
what a
have one
sloppy way to enjoy your material.
Yeah. I mean,
Can you really enjoy it?
I personally just pick up the book and read it, but that's me.
But you don't finish it.
Depends on the book.
Craig has a history of
sometimes
not finishing. But don't. Joke.
No,
Anyway.
I have no problem finishing. It's the other people.
Well, anyway, speaking of finishing, we have came to the end of this little podcast in the most respectful way
Rightfully
possible.
so.
We hope you all have enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. As I cough into the mic and spike it up all over the place. Come back next week, same time, same place, or because it's a podcast, it's whatever time and place you want it to be. We hope you do so. Tell your friends, listen to us at home. Come see us on all of our social media sites. Again, you can just type in Southern Fried Geekery Podcast and search bar our Facebook. We have a little group going. Come talk to us. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And if you got any questions, comments, concerns, maybe you want to tell me the rightful place that dust ruffles that you shouldn't exist need to go in the house, then you can send us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Any last words, fellas? Anything else?
I think we've disparaged ourselves enough for 1 week.
Okay. There's a quote from Tombstone that would fit in well there. Anyway, go forth and love some comics.
Willis Portaccio agrees.
Yeah, he does. That's true.